Hello everyone, welcome to VA Fashion's YouTube channel. My name is Eunice. So today we'll be learning how to make a wrap gown. Okay? So if today is your first time of stopping by my channel, this is me saying welcome. And please kindly subscribe and do not hesitate to put on the notification bell so that you get notified whenever I post a new video. And if you're already a subscriber, I say thank you and welcome once again. So today we're going to be making a wrap dress like I earlier said, and I'll be drafting on my pattern paper. So this is me placing my pattern paper on fold because I'll be drafting the back first, which I'll subsequently adopt it into the front. So I'm placing my pattern paper on fold to draft my back. So the measurements needed to achieve this gown is your shoulder measurement, bust measurement, waist measurement, hip measurement, the length of the gown. For this wrap dress, it's going to have a flare attached to it. So right now, my pattern paper is 30 inches long, which is going to be for the upper part. And then the down part, I'll be attaching my flare. So the full length of this gown I'm making will be 42 inches. So right now my paper is 30 inches, which is going to be for the upper part. Okay, so to get started, I'll be drawing my shoulder line and then I'll go ahead to mark my 3 inches and then 8 inches. Remember that my fabric is on fold, my paper is on fold, so that's part where you can see me placing my tape from. That's the folded part of my paper. So I'll mark my 3 inches, 8 inches to achieve my shoulder slant. I'll come down by 1 inch at the 8 inches mark and then I'll slant it towards the 3 inches. Okay, so now having achieved my shoulder slope, my client's shoulder measurement is excuse me, my client's shoulder measurement is 16 inches. So 16 divided by 2, that's 8 inches plus half inch for joining the sleeve. Okay, so I'm adding my half inch, which is for my sewing allowance. So right now I'm going ahead to enter my armhole line, which is also known as the chest line. So the armhole, to get your armhole, you divide the bust by 6 plus 1.5. And my client's measurement, the bust is 36. 36 divided by 6, that's 6 plus 1.5. So I have my 7.5. So I'll go ahead to mark my 7.5. So I'll also reconfirm my 8.5, which is the shoulder measurement plus half inch. This is to achieve a straight line. So this is me connecting the shoulder measurement down to the chest line. Okay, so I'm marking out my line. So now I have my chest line. So I'll go ahead to enter the waist line of my client, and the waistline of my client is at 16 inches, sorry, at 15 inches, and then the hip line is 24 inches. So this is me ruling out my line. So this is my the waistline, and then this is the hip line, and then of course the 30 inches is the upper length minus the flare that I'll be attaching to it. Okay, so now we'll go ahead to enter our measurements proper. So I'll divide the bust measurement. On that chest line is where I'll be entering the bust measurement of my client. That's the armhole line there. That's where I've entered the bust measurement. Her bust is 36 divided by 4, that's 9. So I've marked my 9 inches. Her waist is 32. I divided by 4 too. I went ahead to mark my 8 inches. Her hip is 36 also. I entered my 9 inches on the hip line. So this is me connecting my lines to each other. So I want to just do this, and then I'll go ahead and add 1 inch for my sewing allowance. So I'll add my sewing allowance to the chest line, 1 inch to the waist, and then 1 inch to the hip line. Then I'll go ahead and take it down, straight down. So I have my back pattern. So the next thing now to do is, having connected it to the hemline of the paper, so the next thing now to do is to draft out my armhole, or to cover out my armhole. So I'll go ahead and get the midpoint of my armhole. Remember, I have 7.5, so the midpoint is going to be 3 3/4. So can you see how I'm folding my tape to get the center? So I haven't gotten that. I'll go in by half of an inch at the midpoint. This is to eliminate bulge at the armhole area. Okay, so I'll connect it back to the shoulder tip and then place my cuff to draw the armhole. So now I have my back armhole. So I'm just going to go ahead to also draw the front armhole. Remember I mentioned that this paper, that what I'm drafting here is actually my back pattern, but I'll be using it to adapt it into my front pattern. So now this is me drawing the front armhole. Also for the front armhole, I went in by 3/4 of an inch because the midpoint of the front armhole is deeper. So you can see I've gone ahead to label it F and B to indicate that one is for front and then the other is for the back. I hope that makes sense. So now I'm going ahead to mark the neckline. Okay, the neck width for the back is 3 inches by 1 inch. So having marked out my neckline, we're done with our back pattern. So now it's time for us to cut it out. So I'm just going to be cutting on the back armhole. Remember that we said we'll be adapting it into the front. So we'll go ahead and cut out the back armhole first to achieve our back pattern. And then when we transfer to fabric, that's when we'll now go ahead to adapt it into our front pattern. So this is me cutting my shoulder slope and then my neckline. So here we are. My back piece is ready. So I'm going to just go ahead and place it on my fabric and cut out the back piece. Remember, I've added my 1 inch for my sewing allowance, so I won't be adding sewing allowance to the pattern anymore. So I've cut out back piece my back piece like you can see. So now I will have to adapt my paper, that's the pattern paper, into my front pattern. The only thing I did was to add ½ inch to the hem because you remember we talked about that I remember I said that I'll be adding a flare to it, so that ½ inch is for joining my flare. Okay, so now I want to adapt my pattern paper into my front pattern. So I'm going ahead to cut the front armhole. So you can see that the front armhole is deeper. So having done that, I'm going to open up my pattern paper and then mark my front neckline. Okay, so I'll be using a neck depth of 5.5 for the front. Already I have a neck depth of 1 inch already for the back. So I haven't placed my tape on 5.5. That means that is 6.5, including the 1 inch I have there. So you can see I've marked it at the center where you can see the crease line. Okay, so remember that we added a sewing allowance of 1 inch. So I'll be trimming out my sewing allowance on one side. This is because I don't want the wrap to get to the side seam. I hope that makes sense. We'll understand it better when we have drafted our fabric out. So this is me just trimming out my sewing allowance on one side because I don't want the wrap to get to the side, that's to go into the side seam. So you just want it to wrap on top of it and stop at the side. I hope that makes sense. So I'm just trimming it out. So can you see? So now I'll go ahead to get the waistline. So you can see the line I just pointed at is the waistline. So this is me just going ahead to draw it out so that I have my full waistline on the pattern paper. So, and then I'll go ahead to connect my marking. So I'll be connecting from the tip of the shoulder to the 5.5 inches I marked as the neck depth, and then to the side of the waist. Okay, so I'll need to use my ruler because this pattern master is not really going to get to that side. So I'll just connect it and see if I'm getting what I want. Okay, so can you see what I have there? So I think I like what I have already. So here we are. So now I'll come down now. I want to have a curved wrap. So can you see the shape I want to mark out? So I want to have my wrap curved, not just straight like that. I want it to curve to give me that overlap, that fine shape. I hope we understand. So from the waistline, I came down by 3 inches. So I'm going to be connecting it from the hemline to that point. Just take note of what I'm doing. We'll understand it. So I'll need to get my hip curve. This will help me connect more, or my leg curve. This will help me get a nicer line. Okay. So here we are. So now this is the shape I want to have. I'll cut out this part. You can see me right cut. Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut them out. So having cut it out, the next thing to do is to place my pattern on my fabric and cut 2 pieces. Like you can see, I've done that already. So, and I went ahead to add half inch for joining the flare. Can you see the down part? And then I also added half inch for turning my facing on the neck side. Okay, so I have my 2 pieces, so you can see how my wrap are overlapping on top of each other. So remember that we use the neck depth of 5.5. So I'm just going to place them closely so that you can see how the 5.5 neckline is going to look like. So having done this, now the next thing to do is to cut the flared part that I'll be attaching to the hem. So to cut the flare, I'll measure the hem as you can see me doing. So can you see I have 24 inches, and of course if I have two of that, so I'm going to have the same measurement on the other side, so that will be the same 24 inches. So 24 plus 24, that's 48. So I'll also go ahead and measure the back piece. So let's measure our back piece and see what we have. So for the back piece, I have a 21 inches. So can you say that? So I have 21 inches. So 48 plus 21. Okay. So when we add 48 plus 21, we'll have 69. So 69, I'm going to be subtracting 4 inches from that 69. This is because my sewing allowance, remember my sewing allowance is 1 inch. So that's on 4 sides. So I'm going to subtracting 4 inches, which is my sewing allowance in 4 places, right? So after subtracting, I'm going to be left with 65. So this 65, I'm going to divide this 65 by 4 because I want to have 360 flare in 4 places. So I haven't done that. I now have 16.25. So this 16.25, I'll divide this 16.25 by 6.28 to achieve a 360 flare in 4 places. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so after dividing my 16.25 by 6.28, I have 2.58, which is 2.5. Let's call that 2.5. So now go ahead to confirm my length. So remember that the length I have here on the upper part, which is the back side, is 30 inches. Can you see the 30 inches? That's 30.5, which half inches for my sewing allowance. So we're going to assume that we have 30 inches. Remember that the length of the gown I'm making is 44 inches. So 30 minus 44, I'll be left with 14. So I'm looking for 14 inches flare. So 14 plus my 2.5, which is the radius of my circle. So that will give me 16.5. So I'm looking for a flare of 16.5. I hope we understand. So I'm going to go ahead and fold my fabric. Once I have 16.5, I'm good to go. So can you see I have my 16.5 folded into two. So that I have 16.5 and my fabric is folded into two. So and then I also went ahead to fold into 4. So I have 16.5 in 4 places. That means I folded a perfect square. I hope we understand that. So 16.5 in 4 places. So now go ahead and mark the radius of 2.5. So can you see where I'm placing my tape from? I'm marking my 2.5 from the apex. So after marking my 16.5, I'll go ahead and mark my 14 inches length. Okay, so you can either place your tape from the apex there and then go ahead and mark your 16.5, which makes it a lot easier instead of coming down to the radius and beginning to mark. So I'm marking my 16.5 there. This is to get the length of my flare. I'll do the same thing till I go round the flare. So I'll do that and then will cut it out. Okay, so I've also cut out the radius. So now I have my circle. So I'll go ahead and cut out exactly two more of this. Initially, I said I was going to cut four flares, but I'm cutting three. This is because I'm going to reduce a particular side. That's the overlap side. This is and that will make it wider. So the flare, some part of the flare or the overlap part of the flare is going to be shorter. So that will widen it. So that's why I don't need up to four of that. Okay, so this is my flare. I've joined them together. So can you see I'm just going to come down at this point. So I'm just going to create that curve. So by creating this curve here, I'm going to have my flare is going to be wider, which will take care of the last one that I didn't cut. I remember that the circumference we're looking for is a circumference of 65 inches. I hope we understand that. So from the open part of my flare, because you can see I've placed my flare on fold. Okay, so the part that is opened after joining them together, which is going to be the part that will be the overlap. Okay, so now what I want to do is for us to just take our measurement so that we'll see what we have first before we know how much we are expanding by. So from the upper part, which is the radius, I had 29. So, and at this part, I'm having 34. So this 34 unfold, that will give me 68. Sorry, 33 unfold, that will give me 66. So I'm just going to come down by whatever distance I have there. So from the tip of the flare, that's from the radius of the flare, I'll come down by 3 inches and just curve it in. That will give me the width of 65 inches. I hope you understand what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to make my flare wider, and that by making and also making the open part of the flare, that's the part that is going to be in front, to be shorter. So it's so making the back longer. Okay, so I'll go ahead and reduce my 3 inches from the upper part. So I'll cut it out. So after cutting it out, I'll also create a curved shape at the down part of the flare. This means that I want this flare in front, the front side to be high and the back side of the flare to be low. That's the back is going to be longer. So you can call it a high-low flare on the bottom of the wrap. I hope that makes sense. So now I'm just going to create a curve at the down part of the flare just to give it that curve shape. I don't want it to be straight there. So I'll just bring in my scissors and create that nice curve you see me doing right now. Okay, so having done this, we'll go ahead and take our measurement to be sure that we have our 65 inches. So can you see this open part of my flare? Can you see how it is curved? Okay, so this is what it looks like. Can you see it? So I can see the down part is longer, or the back side is longer. So this is what we have. So let's just go ahead and reconfirm our measurement to be sure that we have our 65 inches. Okay, so right now, can you see I have 33 point that that's I have 32.5, so which is my 65 inches. So that's even almost 33 inches. So that's 32.5. Okay, and remember it's on fold, that's my 65 inches. Okay, so now I'm just going to take this to my weaving machine and weave the base, that's the hem of the flare, and then I'll go ahead to fold the hem by 1/2 inch and then hem it Okay, so I'll also go ahead to cut out my facing. So the facing is just a smaller version of your actual piece. Okay, so this is my back. I already have my facing cut out. Can you see how it is? So this is it. I just cut out a piece of fabric I'll be using to turn the neckline. So for the front also, I also went ahead to cut out the facing. I followed the shape of the neckline. So here we are, and then this is what my facing looks like. Can you see how it is? This is what my facing looks like. Can you see I followed the shape of the neckline and then I brought it down to the side. So you see my facing is just a little less than 2 inches. So you see I have it both for the left and the right. So this is me. I placed it good face facing good face of the fabric. So in this case, you can use a bias to turn that part. That's the neckline. Okay. So the next thing now to do is to cut my basic sleeve. So I'm just going to cut my basic sleeve. Just in case you don't know how to cut a basic sleeve, I'm going to be dropping the link in the description box. I've drafted a basic sleeve on this channel. So now I have my basic sleeve cut out. This sleeve is going to be stopping at the elbow length of my client, which is 13 inches. So here is my basic sleeve. So now I'm going to be cutting a flare. Remember, I'm making a high-low flare also for the sleeve. So the sleeve is going to have a high-low flare. So the center front of the sleeve, that's the folded part of my sleeve, is the part that is going to be high. So what we will do is we'll measure the circumference of the round sleeve where we're going to be attaching the flare. That's minus my 1 inch for sewing allowance. So right now I have 6 inches. So I'm going to divide this 6 inches by 6.28 to draft my flare. So everything I have here is 7 inches plus my sewing allowance. So but I'm going to be working with 6 inches because I don't want the flare to go into the sewing allowance. I hope we understand that. So now it's time for us to cut the flare of the sleeve. So remember when we took our measurement, we got 6 inches. That's for the base of the sleeve. We got 6 inches. And also remember that our sleeve was on fold. So that means 12 inches. So we're going to go ahead and divide this 12 by 6.28. Whatever we get will be our radius. So after dividing that, I have 1.9, so which is almost 2 inches, but we're going to use 1.9 because this flare will not, we are not looking for any sewing allowance. So remember that we have subtracted our sewing allowance, so we want the flare to be exactly on the circumference. Okay, so we're going to fold our fabric into two. We're looking for a flare length of 6 inches. So 6 plus 1.9, everything we're going to be looking for, that we're looking for 8 inches, half inch for sewing allowance, and then half inch for folding the hem. So that will be 9 inches, so approximately 10. So we're just going to fold our fabric into two, and then we'll go ahead and fold into four. Okay, so this is what we're going to be doing. Okay, so I haven't folded into four, and then I'll go ahead and mark the length of the flare. So I'm looking for a length of 9 inches. Starting from the apex there, I'm marking my 9 inches. I'll go ahead and mark it round. I'll mark it around the flare, and then I'll connect my points. Okay, so now this is it. So you can see I'm marking on 9 inches, which is the full length plus the radius. So I'll connect my points, and then I'll go ahead to mark the 9 inches, which I'm sorry, the 1.9, which is for my radius. So from this apex, I'm also going to mark the 1.9, which is for the radius. I'll mark it round, and then we'll see the next thing to do. So I'm going ahead to cut the down part of the flare, which is the base of the flare. That's at 9 inches. So I haven't cut it out. So can you see I have my flare now? Take note, I've not cut the radius. Okay, so this is what I'll be doing. Remember, I want to have a high-low flare. Okay, so now what I'll do, I'll have to pick this flare. Just pay attention to the way I'll be folding my flare. So this part that is folded, that's the two sides that are open, is the, let's call it the front and the back. Okay, the center front and the center back. Can you see the part I opened up? So this is me now. Can you see I have my 1.9 inches there, which is the radius. So I folded that radius. Can you see? So by shifting it forward, can you see that I've made one side higher and the other side lower. That's one side longer and the other side shorter. So I'll go ahead to remark my 1.9, which is the radius. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So after marking my radius, I'll just go ahead and cut it out. Okay, so you just want to be very careful with this. So this is me just cutting out my radius. So here we are. Okay, so I have my high-low flare. One side is high, which is going to be the center front, and then this is the part that will be on the side seam of my flare, of my sleeve. Okay, so this is it. So I'll place and cut the second one, of course, because we need two of this, one for the right and then the other for the left. Okay, so you can see I've cut out my flare, so I'm going ahead to notch the center front. This is just to indicate that that part is the center front. So now I've also cut out my belt. Remember, it's a wrap dress, so we need belts to tie them together. So my belt, the width of my belt is 2 inches wide, and then the length I have here, I have 32 inches. So I have three pieces of this. I have three pieces of this. I'll be joining two together and then one will be separate, because one of the belts will be longer than the other because it will have to go round from front to back. Okay, so that's why I'm joining two and then the other will be one. So I'll take this to my sewing machine and then sew it. I'll place it on fold and then sew half inch in the wrong side, on the wrong side, and then turn it out. I'll join the other two together and then sew on half inch too and turn it inside out. Also fold the hem of my flare. That's after I must have woven it, then I'll fold half inch and hem the flare also. Okay, so that's it. Okay, so I'm done sewing my flare. I've hemmed the down part. Can you see I wove the hem before folding on half inch? After, of course, I've joined them all together, all the three flares together. So this is what we have. So now it's time for me to show us how we're going to turn the neckline of the back with the facing that we have cut out already, and then also how to fix the belt to our wrap dress. So here is the back piece. So now I'll just take this. This is how I'm going to be sewing the neckline. I'm going to be sewing on half inch. I've placed my facing, that's right side of the facing, facing the right side of the fabric. So I'll go and sew on half inch on the neckline. Okay, so I haven't done that. Then for the wrap dress, that's for the front, two pieces for the front, I'm going to be fixing my belt. I've already sewn the belt on half inch and I've turned it out. So, and I want this belt to be tied on the right side, sorry, on the left side. Okay, so meaning that, remember that the rope I cut three ropes and they are all 32 inches in length, and I said I was going to use to create one belt, and then one would be the 32 inches. So the one that is 32 inches is the one that is going to be on the left side of the wrap, because that belt is supposed to be shorter. Meanwhile, the one that is 64 inches will have to go round the waist and come back to the right, to the left side of the outfit. I hope that makes sense. So I'm just going to show us how I'm going to fix the belt to the wrap. Okay, So this is it. I have my facing already pinned on the front side. That's good side of the facing the right side also of the fabric. So this is me showing us how I'm fixing the belt. Okay, so I'll place the belt underneath the facing, as you can see. So can you see I came down by half inch from the neckline, and then I went ahead to place my facing. I call it the neckline because you can see that the facing is going down all the way to the waistline. So this is what we have. So I'll go ahead and take to my sewing machine and sew on half inch all the way down to the shoulder line. So that's exactly what I'll be doing too on the left side of my wrap dress. I'll do that and I'll come back and show us. Okay, so having done that, can see I've turned my facing, and I also went ahead to join the shoulders together, and I've also fixed my belt. So let's see what the belt looks like. Can you see my belt? So now you can see the belt where I fixed it from. So you can see the part where it is overlapping. That's the wrap side. You see my belt there. Okay. So I have this and it's going to the other side. And then of course the other one will overlap on top of it. Okay. So now the next thing to do is to fix my sleeve. And I fixed the flare also. I will when I after fixing my sleeve, I'm going to shape this dress on my sewing allowance of 1 inch, and then I'll go ahead to fix the flare at the down part and also fix the flare on the sleeve. So I'll do that and bring it back and show us. Okay, so here we are. I've gone ahead to fix my sleeves, and I've also shaped my dress. Like I said, I was going to shape it on 1 inch. So what I did was at the side seam, remember that we have a long belt that will go from one side, then go around and come back to the left side. So I left a space of 1 inch that will allow my belt pass through the side seam. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Before I did that, I made sure to place my side, that's the front piece, in a way that it sits properly so that I can identify the part where this opening is supposed to be. So which is exactly at the waistline. Okay, so can you see the opening? That is where I'm bringing out my belt from. That's from the side seam. I left a space of 1 inch so that I can bring out my belt from there. I hope we understand what I'm trying to say. So here we are. So after shaping my dress, the next thing to do is just to go ahead and fix my flare sleeves, and that's the flare to the sleeve part, and then also fix the flare to the hem, and then we're done with this dress. So we'll see it on the mannequin. This is my wrap dress. Can you see this part is the part that has the longer rope? You see, I fixed it in through this opening here that I have. You see? So this is what we have. So remember that it's going to wrap on top of it like this. So this is my rope, the longer one coming out from this side. So all you need to do is overlap this one too like this. So can you see that the ropes have come out from this side? So if you want to just tie it on this side, you can just come here and tie it just once and form the bow the way you want to form your bow. You see? So just make sure that you arrange it well. So and then tie it like this and then form your bow nicely. This is it, so that your rope can come down. So can you see the way it is at the back? The belt is crossing over. So this is just one way to tie it. But if you want the rope to also cross over in front, like you have it at the back, so all you need to do, this is my rope coming from the back, right? This is the one in front. You come here and place like this. then take it round to go to the back and come back here in front because it is long enough to do that. So can you see now that they have come up there? They are almost equal here now. And then you go ahead to tie it. Okay. So here we are. So this is what we have. So your rope, because this mannequin is slimmer than the person I made this outfit for. So of course her waist is smaller. This waist is 24 and the waist of the person I made this outfit for is 20. I think it's 28. Okay, so can you see? So this is it. So you just arrange your flare well and you can see my sleeve. And you see this part that is shorter and the other part is longer coming down. The same thing is applicable to this side. So here is the front, and so you can see the back. The belt is running over twice. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed making this video with me. Do not hesitate to give me a thumbs up, like this video, which is a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel. Do not hesitate to share also with your friends. So thank you and see you in my next one. Bye.